Sawadee krap. Good evening to every one of you. It's a very full house tonight. We have a full house from many different countries, so a very diverse room. We have Japan, Korea, Singapore, Vietnam, Hong Kong, Philippines, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, Canada, Turkey, China, Cambodia, and also, obviously, Thailand. So again, welcome. I'm very glad you all could make it. My name is Dan. It's my honor to host tonight's event, which is the World Tapioca Conference 2018 Dinner Talk, and it's a prelude, actually, for tomorrow's conference that will be happening. So please enjoy the night. We have a very special night for you. First, we're going to start off with a sustainable of tapioca production and trade from our notable speakers. Some of you may already know some of our speakers for tonight's event, so a very knowledgeable bunch. And to start off, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to draw your attention to the stage right here. We have a duet of piano and klui, and also saxophone that will be serenading you while we serve you your Thai dinner for tonight's event. So please, enjoy. Investors. So welcome our guest speakers for today. You had a very grand entrance. So big round of applause for our guest speakers for tonight. Mr. Simon Bentley, Starch and Sweetener Specialist, Commoditia Limited, and also Mr. Nicholas Betts, Program Lead, Arable and Vegetable, Horizon Committee Sustainable Agriculture Initiative Platform, also known as the SCI Platform. We also have Mr. Surapong Sangsiripongpan, Vice President of the Thai Tapioca Trade Association, and also Mr. Boonmee Wattanaruangrong, Secretary General, Thai Tapioca Starch Association. So thank you so much for being here with us. Big round of applause again. Okay. Everybody's microphones working tonight? Working well? Testing. Yes?
Testing.
Enjoy your dinner?
Very nice.
Enjoy your entrance?
Especially the modern sticky rice.
Yes. Okay, so shall we start with the familiar face, Mr. Bentley? What have you for us tonight?
So I'm going to talk to you about sustainability as it relates to the supply chains that are developing in Thailand. So let's begin with a picture that many of you will be familiar with. It's a picture I've used for many years, and it tells an interesting story. So we've got the US maize price in black, the Chinese corn price in red, and then a very exciting development for the Thai farmer, the root price in green. And what you can see is that in the early years, the US corn price was creating most of the movement in tapioca root prices. But then world corn prices started to decline. China came in with a very supportive policy for corn, and it was China that held up the tapioca price in Thailand. What's happened very recently, as you can see, is that tapioca root price now has no connection whatsoever to world market grain fundamentals. It seems to have reached a level that has no support from China or the world grain market. So, is this a concern for the Thai industry? Is it the case that something's happened in the tapioca market that's spoiling the supply? So, this is what I'd like to talk to you about tonight. So, let's have a look at a couple of issues in the supply chain for tapioca in Thailand. So as many of you are aware, there's been tremendous growth in demand for carbohydrates and tapioca in the region. And as a result, area has expanded in Thailand, but then more recently into Cambodia and into Laos. However, as the area expands, it gets further and further from port, and that adds more to the cost of bringing tapioca out of the countryside, which is a sustainability issue. So, to put this in context, 10 years ago, most tapioca in Thailand was within roughly 200 kilometers of the main port, Lam Chabang. So the first circle in the diagram. More recently, main tapioca areas have grown around about 400 kilometers from port. So the big red circles are two major tapioca areas, and they're around 400 kilometers. But then tapioca has now extended deep into Cambodia in the east and also to the north. If you actually look at the share of tapioca grown at different distances, what you find out is that the red area, that's the share of total Thai tapioca that is grown at more than 400 kilometers from the port. So you can see that tapioca is getting further and further from port. Why should you be concerned about that? Well, part of the reason is that there appears to be a shift in the productivity of that crop that is grown along the Thai border, far from the Thai port. So the red line tells you the ratio of the yield of tapioca grown 200 kilometers from port as a ratio of the yield grown close to port. So this is the relative performance of yield for tapioca grown close to the port and tapioca grown 400 kilometers from port. And then the green line shows you the relative performance of tapioca at the border, more than 400 kilometers from port. And what you can see is that to start with, as tapioca spread further north and further northeast, its yield improved. It was new land, it was high productivity. But more recently what's happened is that in both cases you can see that the yield trends are dipping off. So tapioca grown far from port is actually starting to lose productivity. When you construct the same diagram and compare with Cambodia and Laos, so now I'm plotting, the red line is for Laos, the green line is Cambodia. Now I'm looking at the ratio of the yields for cassava in Cambodia and Laos compared to the yield at the Thai border. What you can see is that the yield in these countries that are deep in the tapioca belt is improving much more strongly than the yield at the border in Thailand. So again, why would you be concerned about this? The reason why you should be concerned is the following. What I've tried to show you in this diagram is, on the horizontal, we have distance from port. So on the right-hand side of the diagram, I've put a marker down for the Thai port. Then I've put a marker down for the Thai border. And what you should find is that the price of tapioca should start high at the port and it should decline as you move into the country and then into Laos and in Cambodia. But the problem is, if the productivity of tapioca at the Thai border is actually starting to lose in relative terms, in relative performance, compared to Cambodia, compared to Laos, and compared to the rest of Thailand, the entire supply chain starts to tilt upwards in terms of cost. This is a problem because when you think of the products that are produced in Thailand, they're mainly chips and starch. And between the two, chips do not travel very well. They're rather expensive to transport. You're carrying 2 tons of roots in chips. The starch is better to transport because you're carrying 4 tons of roots in chips. So what this picture should do is it should push starch production further into the hinterland, into Laos, into Cambodia. And the chips should get pushed closer to the Thai port. But as you know, that's not happening. Because actually, Thailand is moving away from chip production because it's a relatively low productivity activity. So what's happening is the chip production is coming from Laos and Cambodia, when actually it's, at these root prices, not profitable to produce chips in those countries. So as the world market tries to expand tapioca area, it's got a problem. Because to expand tapioca area into Laos, into Cambodia, you really need to be producing quite high quality starch to be able to carry it the distance to port. But that's not happening. So what you're doing is you're introducing an inelasticity in the supply chain. So I believe that part of the reason why the price has risen so sharply now is that the supply chain in Thailand is not responding very smoothly to prices, and there are issues along the border in terms of the mix of products that are produced and where they are produced. So that's the first point. Just looking at short-term issues of sustainability, let's just think about this sharp rise in prices. The first thing to note is, as I said, when you look at the green line, tapioca, there is no support now from the international market. So tapioca prices are sitting there at this high level, and what is holding them up? My suggestion to you is it is now an internal market dynamic. It's more and more to do with the internal dynamics of the supply chain in Thailand and less to do with the external market. So what will happen? Well, I guess the first thing is that we should start to see a strong supply response within the next couple of years. These very high tapioca root prices will now stimulate more area. Sugar prices are low, corn prices are low. Across the region, tapioca looks like the most interesting crop. So, the low prices of 2016 pushed Thailand more towards sugar. Sugar's grown on a 3-year cycle. It takes some time to get that sugar cane out of the ground. But by 2020, we should have reached that point. And by 2020, we should start to see a lot of tapioca area coming back onto line. The other thing we will probably see in the short term is, if you look at the price of chips, the root price, which is the green line, and export of tapioca chips, the red line, export of tapioca starch, the black line, what you see is that typically when the root price goes high, it's chips that get hit, because the chip has a smaller margin, and especially when the chip is being pushed deeper into Cambodia, deeper into Laos, the margin to get the chip out is pretty poor. So I guess that chip exports will start to take a serious hit, and that will get countries like Cambodia and Laos thinking about other products. So I guess over time you're going to see more starch coming into the system, because that's the only product that's going to make sense. So again, Thailand has to think about how it manages this shift in the product mix away from chips and towards starch. So a couple of key messages for the evening. One is that for the first time in the history of the tapioca root price, it is starting to develop a local fundamental. And that local fundamental is a lot to do with the productivity of tapioca at the border. If there is not more flexibility in improving productivity at the border, and improving the flows of tapioca across the border to Laos, to Cambodia, then the entire supply chain in the region is under pressure, and that could produce these price spikes in the future. If tapioca gets a reputation for keep having high prices every few years, it becomes a lot less attractive to all sorts of end users. So I believe this is an issue that should concern the Thai industry, and that they should start to think about, let me call them broadly, these border issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bentley. This is the global market situation for the tapioca industry right now. So basically a problem with chip exports because they don't have such high margins, and also right now Thailand should be focusing on starch and putting that into the system. And then Mr. Bentley is saying that Thailand probably needs to look quite hard into the system because it's getting sort of disrupted in a way.
There's an illogical profile to
yes,
the patent.
It seems the system is getting a bit weird,
yep.
So we have to take a look at that. We'll have questions and comments at the end of the presentation, so let's move on next to Mr. Nicholas Betts, who will be speaking about the global sustainable agriculture. Please.
Thank you, and I hope my Canadian accent doesn't confuse too much, so I apologize for that. We're moving a little bit away from the commodity analysis from an economic perspective into what I'm going to talk about now, which is an opportunity that this sector has to continue to be a leader, to continue to advance in the way that you want to advance it. I'm here representing the Sustainable Agriculture Initiative Platform, otherwise known as SAI Platform, and our mission is to harness the collaborative power of our members to accelerate widespread adoption of sustainable agricultural practices. So those are a lot of big words to say we like to work together on common problems. Many of our members are actually represented here today, and Ingredion being one of them. These are our others. Actually, this week we just broke the 100-member mark globally, and this represents collaboration on what if we had the manpower and the money, we would be working on 48 different commodities in 52 different countries on 19 different social, environmental, and economic issues. So we're going from the view of Thailand cassava to sort of the 10,000-foot view of global sustainability, and what role does tapioca play in that? So we help the industry in three ways. We're a not-for-profit organization, we operate globally, and we support pre-competitive projects collaboratively. So this is something that would probably be interested to the tapioca industry and is to some of our members who have already expressed interest in this type of approach. We also align client specifications and sustainability measurements. So this helps reduce burden throughout the system. If we all understand what the system is, what kind of metrics we want to use to evaluate that system, it decreases the burden through the entire supply chain. As well as then, how do you actually measure and verify sustainability? What is sustainability? It's an ethereal notion of what is success. But if we can agree on what that means and measure it, as an industry, we're going to advance far beyond our abilities. So one example of supporting pre-competitive collaboration. I've used an example here of sugar beets in Europe because it is one of the most successful projects that we've undergone. So back in 2013, we had a company approach us. That company was Coca-Cola. And they said that we want to improve our sustainability of sugar beet sourcing in Europe, our European market. But they didn't want to do it alone. They recognized that if we pool resources amongst our partners or other people sourcing sugar beet in Europe, and if we worked together with all the farmers and mills that we already all work with, then we're going to get more benefit for less money and less work in a faster amount of time. So the goal was to make the sugar beet industry more sustainable. It was to harmonize the approach for what does sustainability mean, and it was to become a leader and point of reference globally for the sugar industry. And as of last October, we have officially closed this project because we have accomplished this. We have a benchmark standard called the Farm Sustainability Assessment with SAI Platform. And all of our sugar beet members, which are most of the sugar beet producers and suppliers in Europe, are 90% or greater of them have now reached that silver level within our standard because they've been working together on common issues. We got in a room twice a year, we went out on the farm, and we addressed issues that were very specific to that region, very specific to that crop together. Once that sugar left the farm, every company did whatever they wanted with it. They marketed it, they sold it, they changed it, they promoted it. But we all agreed on a common approach on farm to make sure that we could reach sustainability targets that most companies today have. That approach could work in any sector. We're currently rolling that same approach out in rice, in sugarcane, and in strawberries in other countries of the world. It could work in tapioca too. One of the other approaches we have is a brand new tool we launched in February called Spotlight. And this tool allows our members, our 100 members, to go into the tool and put down what their concerns are and where their priorities are. Not necessarily concerns, but opportunities too. So every company of our membership goes in here, they can put down where their priorities are. This map is an old map. It's not up-to-date information because that's reserved for members only. You'll also notice that there aren't any company names on there. I've stripped those off. But each one of those lines represents a different company expressing interest on a specific topic. Each different color represents a different topic. You can see in the bottom corner, it's kind of. But basically, the greens and the blues are environmental issues, the yellows are economic, and the reds are social or economic issues. So this gives us an idea that at a glance, there are some places where we can focus on a rotation. Like in the United States, in this example, many different companies are interested in general sustainability of a lot of different crops. But most of those crops are done in rotation. So it allows us to work collaboratively with the same set of farmers and same set of companies that they never would have collaborated with in the past. If we're looking at Thailand, for example, that one is called out there. We do have some there on coconuts, cassava, sugarcane, and null. Null means that general sustainability. But there is interest in Thailand from our membership to work together on promoting various elements of sustainability. So the impetus is there from a networking perspective, from an industry perspective. The second way we help, like I mentioned, is to align the specifications and measures. So when we have a conversation in our organization, we have everybody in the room, from farmers to retailers. And if you're one of those steps in the middle, a trader, processor, manufacturer, you know how tricky that can be. And you also know how much it can advance the process. When we have everybody in the room to address issues and concerns and opportunities, we can really get everybody on board with the same vision. And if everyone we're in World Cup season, so if everyone is shooting the ball towards the same net, we're playing the right game. We're all in the same game.
Almost not Argentina. Almost.
Well, I'm not even going there. I'm from Canada. The third way is measurement and verification. So I mentioned the farm sustainability assessment. So our membership, on the picture on your left there, they can do this questionnaire with their farmers or with their millers. It's cross-referenced with over 200 different global standards of sustainability already. That's what's underneath the FSA logo. That includes things like Bon Sucro for sugar, Sustainable Rice Platform for rice, different organic certifications, all of these different things. So we can know that if Unilever is sourcing a product from a certain area, as an example, they can understand where this fits into their sustainability targets. Then it can be communicated. It's an easy way to communicate on-farm sustainability off-farm. This is some of the hardest parts for our companies, is to translate on-farm sustainability and promote that journey to people outside of the supply chain. As mentioned, so the FSA is a questionnaire. We can do this with any farmer globally. So it's a very generic questionnaire. It's 112 questions, but it covers all of these topics. And I would argue that every commodity in the world has ways of advancing in all of these areas. And advancing in any of these topic areas will improve your bottom line. It will make it more profitable, especially when we can address some of the more social and economic concerns here, and then environmental concerns to make it more long-term. It's implemented in 3 ways, so this is not a certification. We use it within supply chains to address certain issues. There are cooperative farming groups who work within their farmer groups to do the evaluation and understand better where they can use their money. As a hybrid approach with other sustainability programs like Global Gap, ISCC standard, Bonsucro, all of those good ones. Some don't apply to tapioca, but some do. And then, of course, the actual benchmark standards, as I mentioned before. It's currently used in over 25 different countries, and it's available in 18 different languages. I do notice that Thai is not on that list, but I'm sure we could work on that. But it's expanding is the point. It's available in an Excel format, so you can download it, share it with farmers, talk about it through a supply chain. But more importantly, there's an online tool where it can be shared up and down the supply chain in a way that transfers that sustainability knowledge, communicates what the sustainability is like on the farm throughout the supply chain in a way that doesn't burden the supply chain with more paperwork, because we all like more paperwork. And it also gives you an idea, a glimpse at your supply chain then too, of where are your farmers. So there are four different levels. There's not yet bronze, silver, and gold levels of sustainability. The idea is we always want to be improving those a little bit at a time. So it gives you an idea of where that is. And most consumers are very happy if your product is continuing to be more sustainable. It's not about the end goal of being gold, it's about the constant improvement, both from a monetary perspective and an environmental perspective. It allows us to identify gaps. It allows us to determine the range of what a farmer needs. What are the specific needs of farmers in certain areas? They differ within different regions of Thailand, never mind between Thailand and Cambodia or Laos. And then we can always go back, and it gives us a constant tool to reassess, to say, okay, have our initiatives paid off? Did this project work? If not, what can we do to improve it further? So that is a very quick glimpse at what SciPlatform does. And again, I'm very interested in learning about ways that we can be involved in the tapioca industry. There is a need for it, but there's also an opportunity here for tapioca to really take the lead and be one of those leading commodities that can really work together and harmonize an approach to sustainability, to share that good news of what sustainability means and what does sustainable tapioca production look like with the rest of the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Betts. So basically, what Sci is the Tap to the Future performance that we just had right there, the collaboration between farmers and all the networking and governments and investors, something like that, yeah?
Yeah, as long as you don't make me tap dance, then that's exactly what it is.
A bit more drinks or wine, maybe we will see tonight, I don't know, maybe. But basically that was the global scale and the perspective of the global scale of the tapioca. So now let's focus on Thailand and the Thai situation and the tapioca market here within Thailand with the Vice President of the Thai Tapioca Trade Association, Mr. Surapong Sangsiri Pongpan. So please.
Well, gentlemen, participants, I'm the representative of the Thai Tapioca Trade Association. Today I have 4 parts to talk about. It's about the outlook of the tapioca industry. The first part would be, let me introduce about the association, which short name we call TTTA. And the second part would be the tobacco crop plantation in Thailand. And the third part would be the tobacco export situation, and finished by the usage of tapioca industry. So please allow me to introduce the association. The Thai Tapioca Trade Association, we call the short name as the TTTA, was founded in June 28, 1963 by a group of Thai export tapioca traders. Our members include exporters of tapioca chips, tapioca pellet, and tapioca starch, as well as the pelletized factories, starch factories, ethanol factories, sweetener factories, trader and buyer of tapioca products. A great number of international entities are also a part of our member as well. TTTA has actively been involved in promoting product and trade tapioca product in Thailand for more than 55 years. Our efforts have resulted in rapid growth in tapioca trade. It was to be we are the major contributor to the Thai economy. Although there are many trade associations involved in tapioca trade nowadays, but TTTA is recognized by the Thai government as well as domestic and international organizations as the country leader in tapioca trade. This presentation, it would be the plantation of the tapioca in 2017 and 18. The total plantation of the tapioca would be 1.29 million hectares, which give the production of 28.5 million tons. We look at the north part at the northeast. The northeast part is a major area grow tapioca in the country, which is about 54%, whereas north part, central part, east part, and west part is give the production about 46% of it. So we can see the major part of the growing area it would take in northeast. In June 2018, we have carry out the crop survey, and we estimation that the crop would be short by 15%, which give the production of the 24 million tons this year. This is the record of the export of the tapioca chips. China is always be a major buyer tapioca chip from Thailand. And every year, China will buy at least about 6 million tons of tapioca chips. We can see the record in 2014 to 2015, whereas the price at that time is reasonable. It still export with maximum 7.4 million tons in 2015. And also, the tapioca chips export to China or other countries is bring in the income to Thailand with more than 50 million bahts per year. 2016 and 2017, we can see that time is the bad time for the farmer, but the China still import at 6 million tons. So I see that in 2008, the price of the tapioca even is a bit high, but I believe that if the price is in the reasonable price, China as a business partner would be buy more tapioca chips from Thailand and make it up to 6 million tons again in 2019. This chart, this presentation is give us the picture of the tapioca pellet export from Thailand. This amount, this quantity is not big, but we still see that in 2017, the Ministry of Commerce have approached the Turkey for the pellet. This have announced to the user in Turkey that what is the consumption of the tapioca pellet in other countries. Turkey did interest in the tapioca hard pellet, And I believe that it will go on and on until 2020. They start export from Thailand. Asian countries are the good buyer from Thailand. Countries like China, Japan, Indonesia, Taiwan, Malaysia, or even Korea. Those countries are the business partner with Thailand for many years. And we can see that with the quantity of the export to other countries, with minimum of the 3.5 million up to 4 million tons, this had bring income to Thailand more than 50 million baht per year. And I do believe that in 2018 and 2019, the figure and the quantity will come back, and we will see more business in the style industry in 2019. This presentation is interesting. I like people or participants to take a look at this picture. It's an estimation of the usage of tapioca in 2017 and 2018. We put divide into 3 parts of it. The first part is about the tapioca chips and pellet. And the second part is about the tapioca starch and pure. And the last part is the ethanol. We can see the majority of the tapioca root would be produced into starch for export and domestic usage. And 38% would be for export tapioca chips and pellet, and also domestic using for 500,000 of it. For the ethanol, the supply for the ethanol up to now, it would be about 2.7 million tons a year. So with totally picture, it could give the demand of usage of tapioca for about 33 million tons. This picture just gives the roughly about the animal feed and alcohol, or we call ethanol. And the big portion would be the tapioca starch. In the animal compound feed, we have this record for the usage for the pig consumption, and for the chicken and fish and duck. Those industry can use the tapioca up to 40 to 60, up to 40 or 60%. This is the tapioca, the variety of the tapioca. There are KU 50, Rayong 22, Rayong 5, Hue Bong 80, and Rayong 11. Those variety of tapioca would give the high yield, and they were recognized by the farmers. Yes, and this would give the high yield, and I believe that in the future the farmer will use more and more. It's just a picture. And this is my end of the presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kun Surapong. So that was a focus on the tapioca in the Thai industry in general. So next up, we have another guest speaker from Thailand as well, Mr. Boonmee Wattanaruangrong, who is the Secretary General of the Thai Tapioca Starch Association. And Mr. Boonmee will be here to talk about the starch situation in Southeast Asia in general.
Thank you very much, Danny. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Minister of Commerce and the organizer, to select me one of the speakers tonight. I feel very honored to share you all the information about the starch. Well, first of all, let me introduce TTSA a little bit, Thai Tapioca Starch Association. We founded 42 years ago. We have about 100 mills in Thailand, and most of them are the member. When you say Trade Association Prestige Award, this means that we are one of the best associations in Thailand. And I like to say we are the most active association in the world. I always say that because we have the meeting every week, and we have done it for 40 years already since we founded the association, and even before I graduated. Thank you very much. And I don't want to go on further. We have the website, thaitapiocastarch.org. You can make a visit. We have about 700,000 visiting page every year. So quickly about the TTSA. Well, I give you this chart showing about the growth of the demand. We look a little bit over Thailand. We look at the because Thailand is number one in terms of export in tapioca starch, and Vietnam is number two. So we combine both numbers to see what the export volume would be, has been in the past. If you look at the history, this is the combined number, and you have seen that in the last 5 years, it keeps growing, and it keeps growing in a very good rate. But in the small box on the right-hand side, you see that this year, 2017-18, when we talk about the crop years, we used October to September of another year. And this we gain at least the information in the first 7 months of the crop years. And you see that this crop years, 2017-18, when you compare with last year, the volume dropped by 11%. And well, there's a reason on it. When you look at the supply in the bar chart, you see that we keep the production going up, and this year it's dropped significantly. And well, I use the number of CLVT is Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, and Thailand. Well, it's not my intention to exclude some other, but I use those countries will produce for export. Okay. You see that the drop number, I put a question mark in. I don't want you to be too speculative because I use the price there as well. The big drop for the production caused a lot of problem of the gap between the demand and supply. In the yellow line, you see that well, this is a previous chart, the same number. You see that the export volume go up to 5.5 million tons of starch, and this year it's going to drop significantly because of a short of supply, because of a high price, and many customers switch to some other things. Not only because of the cost, and because of the availability of the supply as well. So again, I put the number in. I did not put the number in, I put a question mark in. Don't speculate with the sharp increase, what would be the price? So this is just to show you that, well, the price is too high, we lost the demand, and it's sad that we don't have the supply to supply the customer we have. Well, you see, we export starch, tapioca starch to, if you look at the statistic, we export to 115 countries all over the world. Yeah, it's majority of it is in Asia Pacific. And if you look at the first 5 key customers, China dropped the volume 9%, Taiwan a little bit, Philippines increased a little bit, but very small base. Indonesia dropped significantly. And our colleagues from Indonesia share that, well, glucose business has gone. They use the import cheap material from China because they use a corn base. It means that tapioca lost the competitiveness over the corn. And also Malaysia dropped it. So again, we lost 11% totally in the first 7 months. We still have another 5 months to complete the crop year, and we don't have a lot of supply to supply. So probably it dropped even more than 11%. So that is alarming. Well, I adopted the same chart that Simon used. You see that the red line, well, we use a different color somehow. The red line is cassava, and it's become red because it's hot now. The price is so high, and we always trade tapioca and we command the premium. In the old day when I joined this industry 20 years ago, we always sell at a discount rate compared with the corn. And we have done a very good job, and we command some premium over the last few years. But now the premium is too high. So it's way, way too high. Then that's why the customer switch to other materials. So we still have to compete with corn. If you look globally, I think there's some other crop, but it's not as important as corn. So tapioca and corn is competing in the global market. Okay. Well, competitiveness is always the game of the business. So we are all in the business, and we now know that we have lost the competitiveness. So we got to rebuild, restore, reestablish the competitiveness, and we talk productivity. Simon also talked about productivity and supports that. Stability is a challenge, how we can get, well, at least supply stability to the customer. And now we have the issue, we could not even make it. And if we can do price stability, it would be great, it's ideal. When the price is stable, the trade is very good. And growth is very well. Mm-hmm. And innovation, we got to find a product that meets the customer requirement. So as I said, starch go to several countries, and in fact, it's go to several applications. So if we can be innovative enough to meet the customer requirement, we still can grow a lot. So next one, well, you see, when I talk productivity, stability, innovation, you can hold a seminar and talk days about it. But, well, tonight is very short. I'm going to give you just 3 things to think about it. First of all, we have a challenge. The supply dropped significantly, not because the farmer just turned away to other crop only. There's the issue of the disease. There's a pandemic. If you are not updated about this, means you are not yet updated, and you should know that we have the pandemic of the cassava mosaic virus disease. And this is very important because it's not going to be resolved easily. However, say 8 years ago, we have the challenge of the mealybug, and we have done a very good job to resolve it in 2.5 years. So we are good in that. So we got to work together again to combat this disease. It's doable, but it's a challenge. It's not easy, but I'm sure that we can do it if you work together very well. So we need to resolve this and put tapioca production back to the stable position. Second one is about the value. I said already, we want to command a premium. We are going to compete with corn, but we don't want to sell undervalue versus corn. We still want to command a premium. So we urge you, when you are in the tapioca starch business, go to the right product, do what you are good at, either chip or starch in a different quality, and go to the right application. So that is the way you can command a premium. Well, in some case, if you go to the standard quality, you get reduced cost, and then you can sell as a market value, but get a better margin, for example. So get the right products and get the right application. And the third one is about sustainability that Nick talked about. Well, I don't ask you to meet 112 requirement as SAI platform right now, but I think we need to start something, right? And sustainability means productivity as well. If you do it right, it reduces the cost, and it gives us the sustainability in terms of the supply, and also you get a better value from the customer, because the customer, now we export globally. We are a global market. We are a global supplier. So there's a lot of customers who want us to do it sustainably. They don't want to hear from us that, oh, you may have a child labor issues. Well, I want to be constructive. I want to be straightforward. We don't want the customer to think that, oh, Tapioca in this region has child labor issue or human trafficking, a kind of that, right? So if we do it right, it's not only the labor issue, but also the encroachment of the forest, the water management, water contamination, the agrochemical use, so and so and so, right? Nick will know much better. That's why we like Nick to help us, at least to coach us or tell us the experience he has when he implement this sustainability in other crops and other countries, so that tapioca starch, we can have the same sustainability. Well, I share with you, I talked this in the association, and actually the board of the association endorsed the idea that we got to move forward this path. I have a chance to talk with many government agencies, the authority, and they are very happy to help us. So we will start with something small, and we hopefully we will be able to achieve the sustainability, well, if not the certificate, but in practice, we really do it sustainable. I think it will be great for our business. So I end up my presentation like this.
Thank you so much, Mr. Boonmee, on that insight on the starch industry in Southeast Asia. And now we're moving on to the Q&A session. So if any of you have questions, you can raise your hands, and somebody from our staff will bring you a microphone. Are there any questions in terms of the starch industry in Southeast Asia, or tapioca in Thailand, or the global scale of the tapioca industry? For our staff members, can see a hand. Actually, I have a question for Mr. Bentley. After hearing things about sustainability and hearing the Thai market and the starch market, what it seems to be worrisome is the tapioca is not getting imported much in China anymore because it's competing with the corn. So how can people in Southeast Asia, in terms of, or more specifically in the tapioca industry, combat this problem? You said the borders and the ports and stuff like that are having problems.
So it seems to me we're all talking from somewhat independently. We're all talking to the same story. So I would say the current problem, or let's say the current high price into China is a temporary one.
Okay.
So I think what you'll see is that in response to these high prices, you will see a lot of cassava in the next few years, and that will weigh on prices, and the market will restore itself. So that's not a long-term problem.
It'll correct itself.
It'll correct itself.
Okay.
But I think the issue that's come up is there is a sustainability issue, because what that means for the Thai industry, we talked about value chains and seeing from the farmer through to the processor. For the Thai industry, it actually means seeing Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Thailand as an increasingly integrated region. So when disease, CMD, arises in Cambodia, it actually becomes a Thai problem. And sustainability becomes having a more global view in this region about what you need to have flexible tapioca supply to get the stable prices that you're looking for and to get the competitive prices you're looking for. So that starts to cause for a different way of thinking and for more collaboration probably between Thailand and the other countries. So on the one hand, you're competitors with each other, but together you're actually competing with corn. And corn has much more advantages in the international market. So there's a lot to do together, I think, in that respect.
So in terms of combating the cassava mosaic disease as well. On to Mr. Betts for the sustainability. What opportunities do you see for sustainability in the tapioca industry, particularly in this region, for collaboration?
Well, it's an untapped market.
Okay, so there's a lot of things. Because, well, we have people from the UK, people from the New Zealand, people from China, Cambodia, and all these countries.
Yeah.
You see good potential for collaboration in this particular region.
I see. So building on what Boonmee was saying, this is a great opportunity because you have the industry in a room. And we have the countries that are providing tapioca in very close concert together already. So there is an opportunity here to gain collaboration and participation if we can get everybody together. It's actually much easier than some of the other markets that we work in. So I mean, corn, for example, it's practically impossible to get a global take on sustainability from corn because it's just sourced from so many different systems, so many different countries, so many different parts of the world. In the rice industry in Italy, for example, there are even more players in the game from farmer to buyer than there is here.
Well, good thing that we're in the tapioca industry
So
then,
this
so
is
we
it.
can
So I
collaborate
mean, that's
with
what
one
I mean.
another.
This is a huge opportunity here, and it won't be as burdensome as other industries have seen it. So it should be it's a low-hanging fruit to change the pun to fruit from cassava.
Okay, very nice. Well, talking about the tapioca industry, Kun Boonmee and Kun Surapong, how do you see Thailand collaborating with other countries and the future of tapioca in this particular region? Kun Surapong.
In my opinion, Thailand next year will be a fruitful and have plenty of roots to serve the tapioca industry next year. And I believe that, and strongly believe that we will manage. One thing is in believing, we can see the Ministry of Commerce and Association. Ministry of Commerce always full support to the association and also encourage the farmer to grow the variety of the tapioca. This, and on behalf of the association, I would like to thank you to the Ministry of Commerce for helping us for many years. And for the neighbor country, I believe that like Cambodia, the production, of course, would be next year would be not a bright future for next year, and also Vietnam. And for the disease to spread to Thailand, I don't think that it's possible, because now we are quite strictly on the import cargo from the Cambodia and from Vietnam. So in this point, I think that the sufficient of the tapioca from production in Thailand would be enough for the tapioca industry next year. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So lots of things to talk about at the conference tomorrow in terms of the region right here. And a last question for Kun Boonmee. What exactly happened to the starch and tapioca industry in 2017 and 2018 because it dropped so much significantly? That was the disease, or was it something else? High prices that shot up? Anything we could do about that in this region?
Well, there's three reasons together. It's not only the disease, right? Disease is one of it. The second one is and actually the key one, is about the price. When the price is too low, the farmer they switch to other alternative.
Well,
right?
similar to the pineapple situation right now in Thailand.
The price is too low. I would say that the price is also not sustainable, right? We want the right price so that you keep the stable supply. So we don't want to chase the farmer away, right? So the price will be too low because of the oversupply situation. So that's why the farmers shift away. And the third reason, we just have too much rain for Q3 of last year. So these three happening together, that bring the supply drops significantly, and we don't want it to be happen, right? We don't want it to be happen. That's why we talk about the sustainability. If we have if we can manage demand-supply balance, we should be able to have the right price, so that the farmer will not shift in and out. And second one is about the disease. That if we can manage it well, I'm sure we're going to manage it well. If we don't have that problem, then you remove another issues. Well, over rainfall is something is very difficult. You got to choose the right land. You got to manage the land properly. But there's a way to do it. So that's why if you look at it all together, it's manageable. At least it's manageable. That's why from now on, we got to work on that. And it's not only Thailand who work alone. We got to work together with our colleagues, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, because we are 4 countries that produce for the export. And Thailand has been always seen as a big brother. So we will be a big brother. We will talk together. We have an opportunity to meet together, get to know together, start to build the trust, and we can raise the important issue to resolve it. So when we resolve it, I think we will have a very good tapioca industry.
Yeah, it's very
And
good.
if you look, well, potentially, there's a big potential to grow in the global market.
Well, the interesting, I didn't show the slide, but the interesting thing is when you look at the performance of the Thai border, the productivity there is declining against other areas in the region. But if you look at the performance of the Thai border against US corn, it's actually very competitive. So even the worst region in Thailand is still competitive with US corn. So I think the overall picture is a very positive one for the crop.
I always add the sustainability program in. I did not say that we had a problem or we have a problem, but I'm saying, well, why don't we be proactive to do it? It will be a very good image, because actually the Western country, they look tapioca as a premium. They value tapioca crop very well. So why
more
don't
premium than corn.
Right.
So there might be policies that are put in place for farmers to limit their productions, perhaps, in order to make a sustainable market in tapioca?
Sorry, say again?
A policy for farmers to limit their production, because right now it's an oversupply, or basically the prices are shooting up so much that if you limit the production of tapioca for farmers, if they are willing to, that might help in the long run for sustainability.
Well, economic result itself, sometimes when the price is too high, even though the policy is limit the planting area, but the farmer, they will choose to grow it. I think so. We got to balance it all. The price must be balanced. Demand supply should be balanced. When you look at the growth is actually very steady. And by that, we should be able to manage. We should be able to know what is the demand in the future. So we should not be overproduce it, because it's going to create the issues.
Okay, thank you so much. Are there any questions? Right here. We have one gentleman right here. Can we get a microphone to him, please? Yes, sir.
Yeah. My name is Badrinath. My question is to Boonmee. You briefly touched upon because of the premium in price, the replacement has happened towards corn and other starches probably. Why do you think, which segments specifically were responsible for the replacement? That's my first question. And second is, if the prices come back again for tapioca, where do you see the segments coming back, the demand coming back? Will it happen? How will it happen?
And
Thank
this
you.
question is to
Please.
Kun Boonmee.
Good question. Well, we got to work together or talk together a little bit that some application, some market is a strategy or not. Sometimes we were too ambitious to sell as much as possible. For me personally, I think that is not a good idea. So if strategy is to compete with corn in every application, I think that is not a good idea because you see a corn go to, for example, the feed industry. It's a big volume, huge volume. You can grow many millions tons of tapioca in addition if you want to compete in that application. I am very happy to see that we use less and less tapioca in the feed application because in that application, you get a very low value. So that's why I put in the slide, say, we will go to the right product and the right application because if you want to command a premium or you want a certain price expectation, you got to have a strategy on product and applications. I hope that answers your question. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I think that pretty much wraps it up. Thank you so much for being here. Round of applause, please. Thank you so much.